Welcome to Folklore Voyage, the channel where myths, legends, and old-time drama come to life. Here, we explore the world of folklore heroes, some wise, some weird, and some who claim to have magical powers with zero proof. These stories may be ancient, but trust us, the plot twists can rival your favorite soap opera. So grab your tea, your snacks, and maybe your common sense, because we're diving into legendary tales that will make you think and probably laugh. In this video, Folklore Voyage brings you a story from the Malay world titled Pak Belalang. This tale tells of a lazy Malay man who, despite his flaws, is clever and fortunate, able to turn situations to his advantage. As a disclaimer, this story has multiple versions, both from Indonesia and Malaysia. The version told in this video is one of the many, and it comes from the region of Sumatra, Indonesia. Now let's begin the story. In a small village in the land of Malayu lived a middle-aged man named Pak Belalang. He lived there with his only son named Belalang, which is why the villagers called him Pak Belalang. Pak Belalang was known for being a complainer, cunning, and extremely lazy. However, aside from his bad traits, he was also known for his intelligence and wisdom. Unlike his father, Belalang was very hardworking, kind-hearted, and often helped the villagers. One day, Pak Belalang and his son were working in the rice field. However, due to his lazy nature, Pak Belalang only worked for a short while before choosing to sleep under a tree, leaving his son still busy with the work. Suddenly, heavy rain started to pour, waking Pak Belalang from his sleep. He immediately ran, followed by his son. Then they both ran toward a small hut to take shelter. They then took shelter in the hut while waiting for the rain to stop. However, instead of stopping, the rain fell even harder and showed no signs of letting up anytime soon. Fortunately, they found a more comfortable hut to take shelter in, and they moved there. The rain eventually stopped, but by then it was already late at night. Belalang then woke his father, who had been sleeping soundly, to ask him to return home to the village. They then walked back to their village in the quiet of the night. On their way home, they passed by two men who were leading two cows toward the forest. Because they felt suspicious, they decided to follow the two suspicious individuals. When they reached the middle of the forest, the two men tied the cows to a large tree and then left them there. Watching from behind the bushes, Pak Belalang became even more suspicious, thinking that the two men were thieves who had just stolen the cows from his village. However, instead of freeing the cows, Pak Belalang chose to leave them behind. He decided to report the incident to the village chief the next day, fearing that he might be accused of being the one who stole the cows. The next morning, as Pak Belalang was about to go to the village chief's house, he found that many other villagers had already gathered there. Curious, Pak Belalang asked one of the villagers he knew what had happened, and the villager explained that two of the village chief's cows had gone missing the night before. Pak Belalang then remembered the incident he had witnessed the night before, and it turned out that his suspicion was correct. Pak Belalang intended to take advantage of the situation by using his cunning mind. Pak Belalang then told the village chief that he had a strange dream the previous night about two cows tied up in the forest. Pak Belalang, along with the village chief and the other villagers, then went into the forest to verify the truth of the dream that Pak Belalang had told them. And sure enough, they found the village chief's two cows still tied to a tree, in the middle of the forest, exactly as Pak Belalang had described. As a token of gratitude, the village chief gifted one of the cows to Pak Belalang. Since that day, Pak Belalang became famous for his ability to find lost items, uncover thieves, and more, earning him the title of a fortune teller. The truth was, he didn't have any special abilities at all. He simply made random guesses, and somehow they always turned out to be right. Over time, news of Pak Belalang's remarkable abilities spread throughout the village, eventually reaching the ears of the king of the land. Until one day, the queen lost several pieces of her jewelry, which made her feel very sad. The king, upon learning about the incident, immediately ordered the palace guards and the royal shaman to search for and find the culprit behind the theft. However, the palace guards and the royal shaman failed to find the culprit behind the theft. A few days later, the king remembered the stories about Pak Belalang's abilities and intended to test the truth of those tales. The king then ordered several of his trusted guards to go to Pak Belalang's village to bring him to the palace. Meanwhile, in the village, Pak Belalang was seen relaxing in the tree near his house. The 3 royal guards sent by the king were seen going around, searching for the village where Pak Belalang lived. And after traveling from village to village, they finally asked a local villager, who then pointed them in the direction of Pak Belalang's village and showed them the way to his house. When the palace guards arrived at Pak Belalang's house, they found him sleeping under a tree. Pak Belalang woke up from his sleep, looking confused as he saw the palace guards coming to find him. The palace guards then explained the purpose of their visit to Pak Belalang, which was to deliver the king's command requesting him to come to the palace. Pak Belalang agreed to go to the palace on the condition that his son Belalang was allowed to come with him. The palace guards agreed to Pak Belalang's request, and the next day they set off for the palace. A few days later, they arrived at the palace and immediately appeared before the king. Pak Belalang then asked about the reason the king had summoned him to the palace. The king then explained the reason he summoned Pak Belalang to the palace is to investigate and identify the person responsible for stealing the queen's jewelry. After stating his purpose, the king instructed Pak Belalang and Belalang to stand. After hearing the king's story, Pak Belalang looked confused. He did not expect that the king would ask for his help to find the queen's missing jewelry. He then appeared to be deep in thought. After thinking for a while, Pak Belalang then asked the king to provide an empty room for him to use as a place for meditation. The king then ordered several guards to escort Pak Belalang and Belalang to the room. Pak Belalang, along with Belalang, was then escorted to the room, accompanied by several palace guards. Not long after Pak Belalang left the palace hall, the royal shaman came to see the king. He incited the king to be cautious of Pak Belalang, claiming that Pak Belalang harbored evil intentions toward the king. The king fell silent upon hearing the palace shaman's words. He appeared confused, unsure whether he should believe him or not. Meanwhile, Pak Belalang looked confused and frightened because he had no idea how he could find and catch the person who stole the queen's jewelry. Belalang then tried to calm his father and said that he would help him find the thief. He then asked his father to take a rest. After his father had calmed down, Belalang then went out to walk around the area near the palace. When he arrived at a garden at the back of the palace, he was shocked to see two very suspicious individuals. He then quietly followed them into a building. Belalang then eavesdropped on the conversation between the two suspicious individuals. He heard them saying that they had successfully moved the queen's stolen jewelry and taken it to the royal shaman's house. They also said that they would kill the king tonight, following the royal shaman's orders. After hearing the evil plan of the two suspicious men, Belalang ran as fast as he could back to his father's room. Upon hearing Belalang's story, Pak Belalang was deeply shocked. He felt that he had to do something to stop the evil plan. Pak Belalang then thought very hard until he finally came up with an idea to stop the evil plan. Pak Belalang then appeared before the king and told him about the plot to assassinate him, orchestrated by the royal shaman. The king was shocked to hear Pak Belalang's story. However, he did not immediately believe it and asked how Pak Belalang came to know about the royal shaman's evil plan. Pak Belalang then said that it was the result of his meditation, even though in truth it was his son who had accidentally overheard the evil plan. The king then asked how the evil plan of the royal shaman could be prevented. Pak Belalang then proposed his idea to the king to set a trap for the royal shaman and his accomplices. Although he still appeared hesitant, the king finally agreed to the idea proposed by Pak Belalang. Time passed and night fell. The two suspicious individuals had managed to sneak into the palace and were ready to carry out their evil plan. However, once inside, they were surprised and confused to find the king's chamber empty with no one in sight. And as they stepped out of the king's chamber, Pak Belalang and several palace guards were already waiting to capture them. And in the end, the two suspicious individuals, who turned out to be palace guards themselves, were successfully captured. The next day, they were brought before the king to receive their punishment. But before delivering the punishment, the king asked them why they wanted to kill him and who had ordered them to do it. They then told the king that it was the royal shaman who had ordered them to do it, and that the queen's stolen jewelry, taken by the shaman, was promised to them as a reward. The king was enraged by the explanation given by the two men and immediately ordered several palace guards to summon the royal shaman at once. Not long after, the royal shaman arrived, looking visibly confused. The king immediately ordered the palace guards to arrest him for stealing the queen's jewelry and plotting the king's assassination. But the royal shaman denied doing any of it, claiming that someone was trying to frame and falsely accuse him. However, when he was confronted with his two subordinates, he finally admitted to everything and resigned himself to accepting the king's punishment. The next day, the king summoned Pak Belalang and Belalang to appear before him. The king then thanked them for finding the queen's jewelry thief and for saving his life. And as a reward, the king appointed Pak Belalang as his personal advisor. And that wraps up this version of the tale of Pak Belalang. Stories like these remind us that even the simplest minds can outsmart the darkest schemes. Cleverness and courage can save many things. Do not trust someone easily just because of their position. Evil will surely receive its punishment. loyalty and good intentions will be rewarded. If you enjoyed this journey through Malay folklore, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Folklore Voyage channel for more legendary stories from across cultures. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, and may every story guide your voyage. Thank you for watching.